After spending a day touring the city, Ross and I had reservations for a 3-day, 2-night stay at the Bellavista Cloud Forest Reserve and Lodge, located at the top of the Tandayapa Valley, which is less than 2 hours' drive out of Quito. The lodge is situated high above the forest canopy. It's home to a multitude of flowers, birds, and other small wildlife. For the start of our trip, our driver picked us up at 6:30 in the morning at our hotel in Quito. Before we left the main city, we stopped and picked up Mateo. He's a recent graduate from the San Francisco University of Quito with a degree in tourism. And he is doing a 2-week internship with the lodge and would end up accompanying us on several of our hikes over the next couple of days. The other hombre in this photo is Jason. He's a full-time guide with the lodge for this season. And Jason also guides in the Amazon, which is where he normally lives. After driving for about an hour, we left the paved road and turned left onto a dirt secondary road, which after about 30 more bumpy minutes climbing higher and higher along the valley, we've eventually arrived at the lodge. This is our room at the lodge, very spacious, nicely appointed. The room has a balcony that looks down into the valley below. This is the view from our deck. In the morning, it usually starts out clear, but then clouds start rolling in and we see the fog creeping up the mountainside. After dropping our luggage off in our room, we went down to the dining hall for breakfast, fresh fruit, toast, and an omelet. The dining room is really nice. It has windows all around and it has a great view out over the valley. Shortly after breakfast, we met up with Jason and started out to hike one of the many trails around the lodge. By the time we started our hike, the mist had risen up to our elevation, and you can now see why it's called a cloud forest.
Okay.
Our guide, Jason, proved to be very knowledgeable, and in addition, he has a large repertoire of bird calls. One of the first things we noticed on the hike was that all of the trees were covered with epiphytes. These are plants that are not rooted in the ground, but are attached to trees, palms, other larger plants. Epiphytes are known for obtaining water and nutrients from the air rather than soil. They're possible here because of the high moisture content in the cloud forest. Many of the plant species here in the cloud forest rely on pollinators like native bees and hummingbirds for propagation. And they have these colorful small flowers to attract them.
Gracias.
Some of the attractors can be very large, like those with the bromeliads and the heliconias.
Ladies from the Amazon,
While we did not see any Eureka flowers, which would have looked like the upper left photo, we did see Eureka nuts, also known as betel nuts. They're the seeds of the Eureka palm tree and are used for chewing and medicinal purposes and apparently have both stimulant and relaxing effects. As we continued on the trail, Jason stopped and pointed out a dragon's blood tree. So the red sap from this tree is used on skin abrasions and cuts and commonly referred to as a liquid bandage. It immediately foams into a white substance when it contacts your skin and acts as a kind of a combination between a Band-Aid and quick-acting Neosporin. It's popularly applied to insect bites and stings as well. When the mist clears and we can look out over the valley, you can see these cecropia trees, which really stand out because of their bright silver leaves. A few of these thorny acanthus plants caught our eye. They have a pretty yellow flower, but you have to be careful. They've got sharp spines on their leaves and stems. After 2 or more hours of an easy and educational hike, we're back at the lodge for lunch. This is a panorama of looking from the lodge office and lounge area and then over to the restaurant. Next to the lodge are these colorful achira plants. They're a type of canna lily. This was once a staple food crop in both Ecuador and Peru. The roots cook like a potato, and reportedly a single plant can produce up to 60 pounds of tubers. After lunch, we watched the hummingbirds for a while. There are several feeders that are outside the lounge that are in constant action throughout the day. Just for fun, I tried to slow down the video here to capture the hummingbirds' hovering action. While waiting for dinner, Mateo taught us how to play cuarenta, a card game that originated in South America. It's the national game of Ecuador. It's played to a winner gets 40 points. Also has a 40-card deck, hence the name. While we were playing cards, we all had this delicious Ecuadorian cocktail called caralazo. It's a hot drink made with cane alcohol, naranja juice, and cinnamon sticks. Naranja means little orange, and the fruit looks like a fuzzy orange from the outside. The inside looks a bit like a tomato, which it's related to. They're from the nightshade family. The Latin name Solanum quitoense means from Quito. There are several of these plants next to the lodge. The leaves have this distinctive purple cast when starting to grow. Well, after dinner, we found out that a kinkajou has come by to eat on some bananas that the guys have put outside the restaurant. The kinkajou is a cousin to the raccoon, but it has a prehensile tail. These animals are arboreal and nocturnal. And after the kinkajou finishes his dinner, he's off into the trees for the night. After watching the kinkajou, we head back to our rooms for the evening, and in doing so we walk by the insect trap that they've illuminated with a black light. That attracts moths and beetles over the nighttime, and then the birds will breakfast on them in the morning. We get up early, 5:45, to a beautiful sunrise, and immediately head over to the insect trap to watch the birds begin to arrive. Several toucans showed up this morning. In this video, you can actually see one of the silver trees in the background. When thirsty, the toucans can drink from water that's been collected inside bromeliads. After watching the many birds that have showed up to feast on insects, we also feast on breakfast and then go off for another hike in the forest. The clouds have rolled in already as we begin our hike, and the moss is dripping with moisture. These ferns make an interesting silhouette against the background of the misty clouds. Mushrooms were fairly common in the forest, especially noticed on fallen tree trunks. Jason, our guide, is always scanning the forest for birds and plants and even insects. So he spotted this millipede on the forest floor. So how do we know it's a harmless millipede? Jason explained that in contrast to centipedes, which have only one leg per segment, millipedes have two. Also, millipedes eat decomposing plants and don't bite, while centipedes eat other insects and they have mandibles that can bite. The growth of these tree ferns is very interesting. We were able to observe them in different stages on different plants as the fronds start out as fiddleheads and then grow to top off the trunk. The colocasia, or elephant's ear plants, were a common sight. And during a short rain shower, Ross found a way to put one of these leaves to good use. Making use of the native vegetation for rain protection. And so after another enjoyable hike, even though it was raining, we get back to the lodge for a well-deserved lunch, walk by these nice orange impatiens. This afternoon was pretty rainy, so Ross and I passed on going for a hike and instead hung out in the lounge and played cross crib with Mateo and some other students who were up there to experience some real-life guide work. They were in their second year of their tourism degree at the University of St. Francis in Quito. Before dinner time, we saw a teira. That's an omnivorous animal from the weasel family. Each of these teiras has a unique patch over their throat that can be used to identify specific individuals. So we get up early again on our last day and started out by spending another couple hours before breakfast at the bird feeder. So it's very interesting to see the different kinds of insects it attracts. And with the insects come the birds. This interesting moth has fake eye spots on its wings as a defense mechanism. These eye spots mimic the appearance of the eyes of large animals to intimidate predators, which apparently has worked since this moth has been sitting on this log here for about an hour after sunrise, and no bird has tried to eat it yet. Well, here we are at the end of our stay in Bellavista, which we enjoyed immensely, and are about to board our van back to Quito. And here we are now, back in Quito at La Casona de la Ronda, and we've decided to top off the evening with canelazzo as a nightcap. And that's the end of this video. Tomorrow we head off to the Galapagos Islands to meet up with Gillian and Sean for the next phase of our adventure.